Welcome to the Create with Katrina Julia show by Fit Life Creation, where we talk all the things on wellness, faith, marketing, business, and travel to create a life and business you love. I've been there, friend. I've walked from fear to faith, self-hate to love, corporate to calling, and bondage to freedom, along with transformation in every area of my life. I'm right here with you, walking along on my own path to creating. So tune in so that you learn how to create a life and business you love, hands-on. Let's create it. I am super excited that I have been part of the AWS Amazon Web Services fundraising lab powered by Graham and Walker the last several weeks and going into a couple more weeks. And we're on week 3. And I've been part of different investor education, investor cohorts, and different things you may have heard me talk about in past episodes, Project Entrepreneur and the crew, and then also other avenues. But this one and this particular week 3 of this fundraising lab was absolutely amazing. And so I wanted to share several things. So first, Graham and Walker is their vision is envisioning a world where the most powerful business owners and leaders are more representative of the world they serve. And their mission is to activate the potential of all women in business for the benefit of all humankind. And I've been part of their organization for the last probably about 2+ years. And they are on a mission to reshape the NASDAQ by supporting and investing in tomorrow's most powerful companies. So you can connect with founders, investors, and resources and more in their founder community and apply for their G&W Catalyst, their 2-week intensive fundraising readiness program. And I was part of a program with them a couple years back with their, when I was in Houston for a couple weeks over Thanksgiving as well. But this one in particular really stood out in this week 3 from several reasons. So Forecaster, which is an incredible tool and resources to help you outline your business plan, your forecast, your goals, presented today with a team with Stephen Plapper and Jeff Erickson. And then we also had Charisma present on motivation and insight and what it was like starting her tech and manufacturing company and how she's partnered with brands like Chanel and so much more. So the session opened up with Stephen going into the Forecaster tool and walking through several elements of a forecast, which you may use, as a founder, as a creator, as a business owner, as a creator and CEO, whether you plan on seeking investment from investors or not. Because the thing that I've learned since about 2006, when I started using business plans like LivePlan, is it helps you with your vision and your clarity and your destination in so many different ways. And he walked through their actual pitch and included a specific focus on customer acquisition for growth, which also helped me look back at my business plan and my pitch. I have pitched to different investors and different marketplaces or different avenues as well, and connected with amazing people through G&W, through networks like FXS, through networks and platforms like Gust, and so many others. So as Stephen was presenting, I reworked the acquisitions for growth, meaning like where, putting this in simple ease, where are you getting, people, where are you getting people that are connecting to your business and to your brand, and how are you getting, people in the community? So, one, I realized where I could increase dramatically on networks as they shared several things, and I'll share on that in just a bit. Two, partners. I'm definitely increasing on partners through incredible tools and resources beyond what I've done in the past and beyond what tech and VAs have done in the past, with incredible tools like Apollo.io and much, much more. Influencers. In my recent episodes, you've heard me talk about influencer marketing. And those of you that have tuned in for quite some time, you know that I have been advocating and creating in the realm of influencer marketing since about 2014, 2015. Started off as an influencer, sharing my before and after on Facebook, and the business grew 25 times. I realized, wait a minute, what if I create a community? What if I take this, beyond one platform myself and with community? Imagine the exponential growth. Since then, I've wrote a book, created a course, developed an influencer collaboration platform, influencer management, and so much more, and continuing that as well. And then webinars, and through our freebies library, both webinars, guides, challenges. That is another avenue that people come and co-create and create and end up entering in the community as a customer in the quote unquote customer journey. I call my ideal avatar Katalea, which is the name I desire for my future daughter. And no, I'm not pregnant. And then blogs and shows like this. And if you haven't checked out my latest cover for my podcast, please go check it out. I designed it myself with AI, and I'm super proud of it. And I love, love, love it. I feel like it's on a whole new level, a whole new vibration. And the podcast has been growing tremendously thanks to you. Literally. So I'm super, super grateful. And that was before the new design cover, before the new settings adjustment, and before being part of podcast movement and podcast directory and so much more. And please, 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 if you haven't yet, speaking of, leave a review, because that helps me and helps us and helps other people know about Create It Like a Boss. Then events online and live. So I've been doing, all these different things and avenues online, but I realized, wait a minute, let me increase the Create It Like a Boss community, both with 2 different segments live every single month that will transition to Create It Monthly, which is our monthly program and subscription that ties in several different things. You can see the link in the bio. And also events live, like an event that I'm planning right now for this summer and for this end of summer, fall-ish. So that is in the works. And then setting up a Create It Like a Boss community on Meetup, and then tying that to different virtual avenues. And then, of course, last but not least is social media. So that goes into, myself personally on, everything from Instagram to YouTube to LinkedIn to Pinterest, etc. And then, of course, all the different tech, AI, all the different tech through automation and delegation I use, including ChatGPT now, exponentially AI, IO tools like Repurpose IO, and so much more. So as Stephen was sharing and talking, I had different questions in the chat, and Jeff was answering and was absolutely brilliant. So thank you so, so much to the Forecaster team. And going back to what I talked about with the network partners, because in their Forecaster and in their forecasting, as they were sharing their pitch, Stephen shared in the customer acquisition on networks. And wait a minute, my brain was like ding, ding, ding. Because I have reached out to some networks or some private equity or some startups, but not targeted and focused. So when I asked that question to Jeff, or in the chat as the Zoom was going on live, he gave me a whole list of networks to basically reach out and pitch with all my freebies, from the free marketing quiz to the free webinars to the free guides to the free 75 plus tools and resources, blog post and show series. So I'm definitely excited about that. And I am going to be using Apollo and or Kajabi to send out, basically draft a quick email using AI with personalization to networks like Laws, Techstars, FXS, Graham and Walker, which I mentioned. And I already actually mentioned it to them in a survey that I did on the event, giving them all tens. Accelerators, Gust, Zendesk, Carta, HubSpot, Free Up, Crew, and other communities that I'm part of that you can also find at the 75 tools and the link in the show notes. And then also mystartupstack.com. So this may also be super advantageous for all of you. Then the other thing is I realized, okay, wait a minute, let me revise my pitch flow and financials with business to business for year 1 to year 6, based on a lot of what Stephen shared on what investors are looking at, but not just investors, but also for ourselves as founders to really motivate and scale. So I look at it this twofold. Like, my focus is to truly create and scale, and 75, I'm like said right now, 75%, like, let's do this, to the creator. But then 25% of me is like, well, maybe I'll find the perfect aligned investor partner. And either way, it's such a great exercise. And I keep my business plan updated and I keep my pitch plan updated because it's such a great exercise to have the focus on the vision, on where you desire to head, and the fact that I want to impact 1 million, then 1 billion entrepreneurs and creators and CEOs that are craving creating community and cash, helps give me that direction. So through his presentation, I revised the revenue numbers on B2B2C, business to consumer, for year 1 through year 5. And then I also re-outlined on the people, the biz dev, the tech, and the team, and, aligned literally what I did yesterday and what's been in the goal setting episode and what's been done now for years with the pitch into adjusting this. So if you are curious, I definitely recommend Live Plan, but I've learned so much from Steven and Jeff on a lot of what I've been attending with Forecaster. And I can't even tell you like what they're priced at because I don't use that tool. It looks to me very similar like Live Plan. But if you are loving and get aligned to them, definitely reach out to them as well. Because from what I've experienced being part of Live Plan for years, I haven't seen the level of education and value that Forecaster has provided me. And that's been both on their website and reviewing financials and some of the presentation they do and what I experienced today with Graham and Walker. The second thing I want to point out, and Charisma actually mentioned this, and this was also gold, is make a list of investor questions that they may ask you. And so I think that's great either way, because again, whether it's an investor and or someone else, it helps you think in the terms of a multimillionaire or a billionaire that has their hands on that kind of capital. So it really sets you apart as a creator and as a CEO. And so I also got to go on live with Steven and asked him questions. So if you guys don't know, part of my background also is I'm an MBA. I've had experiences in 7+ industries in strategy, finance, operations. And part of that is also I'm a CPA. And for years, about 7 years, I taught with the American Institute of CPAs as a facilitator, as a guide, and I also published with them. And one of the classes I taught, and I've also actually done this for companies, is valuations. Like, so one, your girl loves Shark Tank. Okay. And I literally used to watch it like all the time as education. 2, because I've done valuations for companies, like the most recent one I think was a real estate tech company. And because I've taught it, and then again, my background and also, having a great relationship on that side with money and finances so far, we're transitioning the rest, is I love that side. And so he shared with us how, they're $4 million ask to investors, at the end of their pitch deck. And then, estimating or guesstimating, their lead investor at $2 million at 10% equity, which means 10% ownership, equates to a 20 million valuation versus what he shared on estimates at the end of year 5 or year 6. Because I was curious on like the approach of where like he was getting that. And then of course he was asking for feedback and whatnot as well. And then beyond that, one of the things that he shared that I really, really liked too was the approach to the pitch deck. And so, again, this is great, you guys. Whether like some of you will not go to investors and will not ask for investors for funding ever. And that's perfectly okay. But two, some of you will, and or some of you will desire to at some point, whether it's pre-seed, seed, series A, etc. Okay. And just so you know, also, I've also sat on boards of directors and actually was the financial expert at a company that went public on the debt side. And meaning they had bonds. So not on the equity side, but because of that, they were required to comply with Dodd-Frank. And so when I was chief audit exec, when I first moved to Atlanta in 2010, that was part of my role in that company, is helping them be compliant, doing it in a systematized way, doing it in a way that had a very high return on investment. Like one of the things I did was previously a company was helping them be compliant and they were paying about $3 million a year with that public accounting firm. Then when I came on board to the parent company, I did a request for a proposal. I had them sign a NDA or a non-disclosure agreement and told them that, hey, we're going to do this as fixed fee and I want you to scope it out and I want you to right size and approach it with documentation like quick Excel spreadsheets for key controls. So nobody's money is wasted, that we do exactly what's needed, nothing more, nothing less. And then also I implemented a work paper / audit dashboard for the companies. It was 3 companies and the board, and a fraud software, and found over $3 million in fraud the first year alone with very pointed operational testing. And then also ended up finding over $10 million top line opportunities in the contracts, and basically the piss poor way that contracts had been negotiated and the money that was being left on the table left and right, and the margins that were really, really low. So just sharing, a bit of the history, and like, in case you're wondering, Katrina, where are you getting all this, or how do you know all this? Friends, I joke, but not joke. I've lived like 10,000 lives. And I love, love, love to learn and apply, hence hashtag create it like a boss. So in his pitch, he walked through, and keep in mind, I've been part of different business presentations, investor, etc. And so the way he did it, like I loved it, because Stephen talked about the only job of the pitch deck, and this goes whether it's a pitch deck for investors, pitch deck for business, pitch deck for B2B, the only job is conversion. Like you want to get to the win, right? Or you want to get to the right win with the right person or the right team, right? And so he started it out with the problem, who we are, how they're like unicorns, and compared their company, a forecaster, to companies like Uber and others and Amazon, which immediately caught my attention. And how they're scaling, key metrics, the team, the actual forecast. So the forecast was done right before the ask at the end of the deck. And he emphasized and focused on that the only job is conversion. So, and again, immediately that caught my attention, because as I was looking through it, one, he caught my attention on some of the factors of the customer acquisition, then adjustments to the revenue and the team, and how to scale faster, and when and how to implement the VAs I have, new VAs, tech that I have existing, new tech, and then key leaders to really help scale, but not waste money in any way, shape, or form, that shows, anyone, investor or non-investor, like, oh, she's really thought this through. And that's some of what I've done in past companies, is basically lay out, roll out plans and then actually then implement them. So I love being on both sides. Like some people, it's funny, they'll tell me like, well, Katrina, don't you only want to do X or don't you only want to do Y? And I'm like, no, I truly love to create and scale. I love to, create events, create retreats. I love to, interact with like-minded community live and online, but I also love being behind the scenes. Like I love recording this podcast behind the scenes because there's no one in front of me. Like I'm imagining you listening and engaging, but there's no one in front of me. Right. But I also love doing the tech stuff, like, implementing the tools like Apollo.io or, Kajabi. But then once I implement and I determine, 3 to 5 steps and I scale it, I have no trouble handing it off, whether it's to a tech tool that automates like Repurpose or IFTTT or others, and or to a VA and saying, hey, do this in these 3 to 5 steps, and or account manager or a launch manager or whatever that is. And I'll be sharing more coming up on an incredible retreat tool that I just came across in community that I'm excited that is moving forward. So in comparison to his outline, so in any event, I love doing both, but again, I create and scale so that I free up my time and so that I am able to focus, because my zone of genius is to create and scale. And that isn't very common around, with many people. For some people, it's simply creating, and or some people it's public facing, and or some people it's behind the scenes. But I truly believe that today's creator and CEO, like, for those that desire and those that are multi-passionate like I am, there is a need in our world to, develop those skills and then empower others, ensuring that it is aligned to your vision. So in my existing pitch, I do have the problems worth solving and the opportunity, and I do have who we are. So that aligns perfectly so far, but I don't have the unicorn. So that is a gap that I'm definitely going to add in. I don't have the components of the scale, and I have some metrics, but not all of them, like not what he showed. So I'm definitely going to revise the unicorn, the scale, the metrics, and then the forecast. So that way, that is very, very clear on those ends. And some of the pages will be shortened and or eliminated. And now that I also saw his pitch that Stephen was showing for Forecaster, I'm able to see, why, perhaps some investors weren't immediately captivated, because I know the opportunity across the board. I know what's happening, from the B2B2C side, the AI, the online and live, the automation, the partnerships, the leverage. But if it's not showing up in the numbers readily in a quick forecast, most investors and or most people, it's like, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense, right? And if they don't see that readily as a key highlight, at the end, and, everything's leading up to that right before the ask. And then I also didn't have the ask of the exact figure and then where that's being used. So just the level of clarity that was shown was absolutely amazing. So I am super grateful for Graham and Walker, and super grateful for the value that was provided in today's session with Jeff, with Stephen, with the Graham and Walker team, with Charisma, and just the clarity on the next steps to reach out to the potential networks, to revise the pitch and the financials, and to be in a even greater state of clarity on the GPS. Meaning, because if we don't have the right address plugged into our vision, then we can go any number of different directions. And I don't know about you, but especially as a multi-passionate creator and CEO, that is something I am constantly creating and seeking, because yes, I love all of X, but then it's always looking at, okay, how do I prioritize this? Which is why I use incredible tools like ClickUp and the dashboard, why I'm constantly brain dumping and re-looking at things to say, okay, wait a minute. where do I get to focus now? Where is my primary focus and results focus now? And what's coming up next? And then where is my time going as a human being, as a creator, as a CEO? Because depending on those moments, those are all different hats that we get to wear. So I will be sharing this with Forecaster and Graham and Walker as well. Hopefully they will share it. And also, as always, friends, leave a review on the show so I can shout you out. Would love to share. Oh, speaking of reviews, we just got a new one. So let me go back. I'm glad I prompted myself with that because I realized, wait a minute. So a recent review that was just published was 5 stars, 3 fire emojis, diverse topics to help you go to the next level with your business. Love the short episodes by Jubeeju, Jubeeju. I don't know if that's the handle, but that is the user that plugged in the review. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And as always, friends, remember, create, transform, and inspire because you are born to. I am so excited and honored to partner with Spotify for podcasters. Ever since I connected with Spotify for podcasters, I feel like having options like video podcasts and Q&A and polls has helped me be creative on a whole new level. And if you didn't know, I want to thank all of you for listening because last year we reached top 100 in marketing. And some of the ways this was able to happen is because of the ability to have distribution on platforms like iTunes, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Stitcher, and more. Basically everywhere and anywhere podcasts are in the world. I highly recommend you record your show on Spotify for podcasters. You can download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. If you want to make a podcast, Spotify's got this incredible platform to help you make one super easily and distribute it everywhere and anywhere and even earn money all in one place for free. Yes, for free with Spotify for podcasters. And here is how it works at a glance. You can record and edit your podcast and your shows right from your phone or your computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you get to start creating it today, or like I like to say, #create it. Then you get to distribute it to Spotify and everywhere and anywhere podcasts are heard in the world. Video podcasts are also available. Plus, make sure you check out the different features that I mentioned earlier to get your fans, your friends, and your besties engaging in your show, like the Q&A and the polls to get people talking. And one tip, I've extended several of my podcasts out to the end of the year because that way you get people a chance to connect and create it. So, share with me if you record your first and or your next show with Spotify for podcasters. I would love to know. Tag me at Katrina Julia Fit at Fit Life Creation. And speaking of connecting and creating a conversation, also leave a review on my show with your new show, and I will make sure and shout out your show as well. And definitely check out all the ways that I spotlight and feature and connect with creators on my show and collaborations as well. So let's create it. All the chats on faith, wellness, money, marketing, business, and travel so you create a life and business already. Head on over to the blog, the podcast, and the freebies to jumpstart your transformation. If you're ready to dive into the online courses, the live events, or the retreat, and if you want to create with our community on an even deeper level, definitely check out our internships, are influencer collaborations, management, and brand engagement. Let's create it.